wasn't gonna do this at first, but this is kind of a good idea. What if this just fell? What's up, everybody? Welcome back to my channel. So today we're starting Spooktober. It's gonna be the first video, so welcome. Y'all like my new intro? I made it myself. What we're gonna be doing for Spooktober, this is not like Vlogtober, so we're not doing it every day. I will have other videos that pertain to very different stuff that has nothing to do with October, Halloween, spooky. I wanted to do Spooktober because I feel like this is the time for me to step out of my comfort zone and do videos that I would not normally do on my channel. Every video that has been written down are videos that I am interested in or wanted to do or seen and have some type of drive to do it. Today's first video is going to be a true crime video. I watch true crime all the time. I watch Haley Elizabeth, I watch Bailey Sarian, and that is about it. If y'all have any other recommendations, let me know. I know Jamila watched Some Girl. It's really good. I'm so hooked. I'm so interested. I just love stuff like that. This is gonna sound so corny, but I wanted to make a video about Michael Myers. Only because a lot of people like glorify and sexualize these sick ass true crime that actually happened, serial killers, when I like sexualize and like glorify Michael Myers. And I feel like that's valid because he's fictional. He's not real. He's not a real person out there doing these things. So I don't know how I feel about this anymore. I thought it was pretty cool, but let me see. Yeah, because y'all not gonna be able to read that anyway. So we're gonna move this right back over here. But I thought that was a cute little idea that just happened to pop up. Let's get comfy because we're gonna be talking about somebody that I barely see people talk about. Even when I was doing the research for this, which I found a new hobby. I like researching. It was very fun. It was interesting. It's gonna teach me some more stuff for when I go to school and I have to research. No one really talks about this man. I don't know why. Maybe because he was born so long ago, and maybe because this happened so long ago. He does have 2 movies, which we will talk about, but it's just surprising to me that nobody's talked about this man before, and I've heard about him before. So we're gonna talk about him today. So get your drink, because I got mine. It's just some juice. Before we start this video, I want to say a huge disclaimer. If you are triggered by anything nasty, I don't know, like it's everything at this point. It's there's all type of stuff, okay? If you are triggered to basically anything, like I'm not even joking, like basically, it's basically everything. So if you're triggered to any of that, just make sure you check out the next video. Don't even waste your time on this. I don't want to trigger nobody. I don't want to get anybody in a certain mood. So if you are weak stomached or if you just get triggered by those type of things, make sure that you do not watch this video. So his name is Albert Fish. He is better known as the Brooklyn Vampire, I cannot say werewolf, the werewolf of Wisteria, and the Gray Man. The reason they called him the Gray Man is because he just looked gray, okay? He was a very gray toned man. You know when you see auras and it's like, oh, you have like a blue aura or a purple aura or a pink aura. Yeah, he had a gray one. So yeah, he does have 2 movies made about him, to my knowledge. There might be more, or he might be mentioned in other ones, but the 2 movies that were dedicated about him was The Gray Man, Albert Fish, and Sin He Found Salvation. I might be looking off to the side, and I'm not gonna lie to y'all, like, y'all I'm a real bitch, and like if I cannot remember a full sentence, I'm going to be looking at it. So just, yeah. Many people might not know, but his name is not originally Albert. His original name was Hamilton. Sorry. Hamilton Howard Albert Fish. He was born on May 19th, 1870, which makes him a Taurus. But trust me, we do not claim him, okay? We don't claim Mr. Fishy Poo over here. We don't claim this man. But he was born in Washington, D.C. I'm about to sit up. How about that? We getting active, okay? So his father's name is Randall. He was 75 when Albert was born. That is nuts to me how men can literally just have kids till like they basically die, which is basically what happened to him. And his mother was 43 years younger than him. So she was 32 when she had Albert. Albert was the youngest of 4 children. The name Albert came from one of his deceased siblings. Other kids in school would often call him Ham and Eggs, which I think is hilarious. Him getting bullied does have a lot to do with what has been going on through his life, but like Ham and Eggs, sorry. Unfortunately, Albert was not the only one with a mental illness. Maybe I should put it right there. His brother was in an asylum. His uncle was diagnosed with mania, and Albert's mother would routinely experience hallucinations. So when Albert was only 5 years old, his father passed away. So he was about 80, 81, which is like, wow. That's just mind-blowing. Ellen felt like she could not take care of her kids, so she put all 5 of her kids in an orphanage, which is understandable. If you can't take care of your kids, sis, this, then do what you gotta do. But upbringings really just impact your life. Let's just say that. So at this point, it's believed that like what happened to Albert in the orphanage definitely impacted like the rest of his life. So they were all put into the St. John's orphanage. He suffered physical abuse from the caretakers as well as the children, and the caretakers would really like encourage for them to be beating on each other, which I just think is nuts. At this point, I hope they're really like checking into these places, because that is sickening. They need to start putting people like undercover in these places. I don't know if they do, but they need to, because that's sick. While he was getting all this stuff done to him, he kind of started to realize like, I actually kind of like it. And it's like, okay, there's kinks, but the kinks that he had are just nuts to me. I'm sorry. Like, they are off the wall type shit. That's all I can really say. There wasn't really much information besides that about what was actually going on in the orphanage. However, when he was about 10 years old, his mom finally got a government job and she was able to get her 5 kids out of the orphanage. So this is when Albert started to really like experience these type of things that he was getting done to him inside of the orphanage, outside of the orphanage. So when Albert was about 12, he got into a very unhealthy relationship with a local telegraph boy. This boy did introduce Albert into some very odd things. I mean, well, okay, I'm not gonna say odd because these are real life kinks for people. One of them is weird, but the other one's like, okay. He introduced him to urolagnia. Urolagnia, let me see if I'm saying that right. Urolagnia, which is, we would call it today a pee kink, okay? He had a pee kink. He would want to drink the pee, and he also had a fetish into eating feces. You know, feces. I don't know about the feces one. The pee one is like whatever. I mean, it's not whatever, but that is the thing. But like, is like eating shit a real thing? Like, is that a kink that's like valid in like the sex world? Albert would also spend a lot of time in bathhouses, which I didn't even know bathhouses were a thing. I'm so serious. I did not know what bathhouses were until the new Dahmer series on Netflix. I'm not gonna lie. So I never knew what they were. I didn't know bathhouses at all. It's not like I knew what a bathhouse was, but just didn't really know what was going on inside. But now I know what a bathhouse is. And he would go in there and spy on younger boys while they were getting undressed. Mental illness was not like, I guess it's not like it is today. They didn't really have like the resources to classify and identify these serial killers, to know the minds of them and know this is what we need to look out for in another person. In the 1890s. So he was about in his 20s here. So he decided to pick up and move to New York City and be a prostitute. Yeah, and be a prostitute. He decided, I want to go to New York City and I want to be a prostitute. I'm not prostitute shaming, okay? I'm not prostitute shaming. I just personally couldn't do it, and I hope my children don't ever get into something like that. Because I guess technically there's like healthy ways to prostitute, but yeah, anywho. So when he was a prostitute, that's when he kind of took advantage of the fact of like raping young boys. Can I say that word on YouTube? I hope so. I mean, like, I not hope so, but like, I don't want to get demonetized. Albert's mom just thought it was like a grand idea one day to just arrange a marriage for him. Back then, it was a thing. Like, arranged marriages were a thing. I wish my mom would like call me and be like, hey, I have this girl for you and I think you should marry her. Like, no. And it's so crazy to me that that was like the thing back then. So this is when Ellen introduced Albert to Anna Hoffman. She was 9 years younger than him, and they actually ended up having 6 kids together, which were Albert. Listen to these names. I'm not trying to be funny and I'm not trying to be disrespectful. Albert, which is his name. Anna, which is her name. Gertrude. Eugene. John. And Henry. I feel like back then they weren't creative at all. They didn't care. It was just like, oh, well, I have a third cousin named Henry and that one sounds good. It's like they had a book of names and it was like 100. And that's what they went off of, because like these are all cliche ass names. Albert did try to live a normal life for a millisecond, and he got a job as a house painter. Sounds like stuff my dad does. But this did not stop him from what he really wanted to do, which is just sucks. It's like you try and you try and you try and you just fail. So he failed. I don't even know if he put much effort into really trying to not do these things. We will never know. He just went back to his roots and started raping boys again, which is just the shit that y'all finna hear is like, I couldn't imagine, and I just feel so incredibly deeply sorry for these family members and loved ones, just anybody that like had to deal with this back then, because it's just disgusting. I'm sorry. He told a story once of a male lover that he had who took him to a wax museum. This museum is where Albert became attracted to penis bisection, which is a split penis. You know how people split tongues? Have you ever seen people? If you have not seen people do that, stop this video and go look at a split tongue. It is disgusting, and I don't understand why people do it. I mean, preference is preference, whatever, but like I just could never. And the healing process just sounds so excruciating. So I don't get how people could do that with their penis either, but it is what it is. If you want to look it up, go ahead. It is called penis bisection. And that kind of just leads me to the question of what kind of fucking wax museum did they go to? Let's see if we can find it. Penis, oh wait, not me finding it. It's in Brooklyn. Yeah, because they didn't say the wax museum. It's in Brooklyn. I don't know if this is the exact one, but we're gonna assume. It actually looks kind of interesting, but it sucks that this man went in there and was like, oh yeah, I like that. Let me start doing that, you know? So I'll put it on the screen, a little picture of what's there, but very odd museum. I mean, I would probably go, I ain't gonna lie. That's when he decided that sexual mutilation was like an obsession of his, that he just felt the need so bad to fulfill. This story is kind of like split far apart, which is gonna sound crazy. It's really off of like what he's said or what his family has said. So it's not really like a full timeline of people just walking around with him seeing. I just want to give a disclaimer because what we're about to talk about next, he was around his 40s. So yeah, that's when Albert's first mutilation happened in Wilmington, Delaware. And this happened to a 19-year-old young man, and his name was Thomas Keaton. I think it's Keaton or Kedden. They had a sadomasochistic relationship, which basically is like, it's like when people like humiliation to others or themselves. It's like they purposely like want to see somebody in pain or humiliated. You know what I'm saying? It's like a humiliation kink. He had a lot of weird ass kinks, okay? We are also not sure if this relationship was consensual between the two. Some believe that it was forced, some believe that it was true. It's just speculation at this point. 10 days, not even 2 weeks after they met, Albert took it upon himself to take Thomas to an old farmhouse where he kept him there for 2 weeks to torture this poor man. At the end of this long 2 weeks of torture, he decided to cut off Thomas's genitals. Genitals is like the whole thing, right? So Albert's original plan was to kill him, chop him up, and take his body back to his home. But he couldn't because he was afraid that the meat would spoil. Take a sip to that. Stuff like that always makes my mouth water, like, ugh. So instead of doing all that I just said, he was originally planning on doing, he decided to just pour peroxide on it, put Vaseline on it, and then put a rag on it, and handed Thomas a $10 bill, kissed him goodbye, and left. Mind you, I want to say this because I think this is very interesting. I always know that things back then aren't what they are now. $10 back then would have been $300 now. So imagine getting tortured for 2 weeks, him planning on killing you but didn't. He cut off your penis, turned around and said, "Ah, fuck it. You deserve something, okay? So I'm gonna wrap this up real quick and get it all together, and then here's $300. Technically, you know what I'm saying? Like back then it was 10, but now it'd be worth 300. So it's like, no. Like, I don't, nuts. In 1917, this is where a lot of traumatizing, I mean, his life was traumatizing. No excuse for what he's done, but this is when shit just, that fan right there, it smacked the fuck out of it, because like, what the fuck? Remember guys, he had a wife this whole time. This is not like, he was not single. He had a wife. So his wife Anna just decided one day that she was gonna leave him. She had another lover in mind by the name of John Strobe, and she just upped and left him and the kids and went on her little love journey with John. And Strobe was not a stranger to this family. He did rent out a room from the Fish family, so he was living in there. And John just woke up one day and said, you know what, we're just gonna flee. We're just gonna go. We're gonna go. We're never gonna come back, right? Right? No, not fucking right. Albert comes home to his house empty, his wife gone, and the only thing that was left was his children for him to depend on. So not long after that, Anna and John were having a couple little issues financially. Anna just took it upon herself to come back and ask if she could stay. I don't understand why, because I would be like, fuck no. But Albert decided, you know what, I'll let you come back. But John, that man John gotta go. John gotta go somewhere else. He gotta find somewhere else. I don't give a fuck, but he's not staying here. But you could come back. You could come back. You could come back to the family, boo. You could come back. Anna, because John couldn't find anywhere else to go, decided, how could we make this work without like him figuring out that this is happening, right? Anna decides to hide John in the attic. Yeah, in the attic. She's like, yeah, go up there. I'll feed you, bathe you, do everything right up there. Did the kids not know? Or did they know and just like not snitch? That's my question. Albert did end up finding him. It wasn't detailed how he found him, but he found out that he was living up there. After Albert found them, he told her, you know what? I told you that this man could not stay here, yet you let him be in the attic? Now, and after he found that out, he was like, you know what? I'm gonna tell you one more time. Clearly you didn't hear me the first time I said it. He needs to go. You could stay. Do you get it now? You get it? Like, he cannot stay here. He was in the attic. You think I'm a fucking fool? This is not what we built with him. He has to go. And I decided, fuck it. Fuck it. I'm gonna go with him. So after all that, Albert was just really going through it. He started having hallucinations. He also tried to self-harm himself. And also, he liked it. So like the self-harm wasn't really like harming him, you know what I'm saying? It wasn't harming him mentally, probably physically, but it wasn't mentally. Albert would push needles into his groin. He would also hit himself with a wooden paddle, but it wasn't just a regular wooden paddle. No. Albert had to be creative because he liked that shit and he put nails on it. He would hit himself with a paddle that had nails on it. I couldn't imagine. It was reported that he would get a wooden dowel and he would soak it in lighter fluid, light it on fire. Just guess. Just guess what he would do. Go ahead, guess. He would set it on fire and he would put it up his butt. Yeah, I'm surprised his insides, well, I'll show you guys a picture of his insides, but like, I'm just surprised that his insides weren't like fucked up even more. Like that's a lot to, that's a lot. That's a lot. I don't know what else to say. When you first start the story, it's like, damn. And then you keep going and it's like, damn. And then you keep going and it's like, damn. And then you keep going and it's like, damn. What is going on with this man? I can't. I'm wiping my hands with it. So this is around the time that he started getting an obsession with cannibalism. We all know what that is. You eat people. And he'd often make meals for his children made with raw meat to fulfill his desire of eating human flesh. Mind you, before he started committing these murders, he was evaluated multiple times at psychiatric hospitals, multiple times. And he was always just declared sane and released. I bet they feel stupid. And this is also around the time where he started to get quite a collection of torture devices, which were a meat cleaver, I think it's cleaver, a small handsaw, and a butcher knife. So those were his tools, y'all. So if y'all ever go to somebody's house and y'all see them, then just get them vibes and leave. He started preying on mentally disabled people and black men. I can't even say black men. I don't know if it's men or women. He only did that because he felt like those people wouldn't be missed. And that saddens me so much that people literally prey on people that are like homeless. People prey on homeless people all the time because it's like, oh, no one gives a fuck about them. So it just sucks. Even, or mentally handicapped, like I said, or just black people. It's always just like, why? You think that these people really wouldn't be missed? I don't know how many people on the earth that are like decent people that wouldn't be missed by anybody, but go off, sir. He would also pay other children to capture other children to torture and murder them. None of the murders that he committed had real solid proof. Albert did make these claims after he was arrested. So take these with like a, he did it, but like, what did he really do? You know what I'm saying? According to him, his victims were in the hundreds, but he couldn't tell that much. So I don't know. Maybe he just wanted to be the world's biggest serial killer, because there's people out there like that and that's disgusting. I could just never imagine in life. So around the 1920s, he was in full-on psychosis mode. Everything was just a dream at this point. He was convinced that God was telling him to torture and murder innocent children, even after he was evaluated. So in July of 1924, Albert was lurking around the Kill family farm. They had a daughter, and he was paying a little too close attention to this daughter. Luckily though, her mom caught Albert and basically chased him off, told him, don't come back, you fucking freak. I would fucking chasing off. I'm running over. That's what I'm doing. That same night, Albert was not fazed at all, and he decided to go back to the farm and spend the night in there. I don't know why he decided he wanted to have a sleepover with the pigs, but he did. And then again, he was caught by the father, Hans, and was chased off again. Nothing really stopped him when he had something on his mind. When he was like, I want this, I'm gonna get it. He wanted it and he was gonna get it. Nothing happened with that situation. However, that really just motivated him to get what he really wanted at the end of the day. His next attempt was this little boy. His name was Cyril. I'm gonna put his name on the screen. I don't know if it was Cyril. We're just gonna call him Quinn. He was Molesting, this boy. So Albert would offer these kids lunch to lure these kids to his home. So in this situation, there was two boys. I'm pretty sure it was Quinn's friend. And while the boys were waiting for lunch, they were wrestling on Albert's bed. When the mattress overturned from them wrestling, that's when they discovered all of Albert's tools that we were talking about earlier. The knife, the handsaw, and the cleaver. I really feel like I'm saying it wrong, but you get what I'm trying to say. So once they seen that, which I'm so grateful for, they left. They fled. They ran out the crib. They went home. They were like, I don't know what this man is on, but we're not trying to be a part of it, so we left. I don't want any kid to ever go to a stranger's house, but if you ever do, if you see any sign of something crazy, do not, don't think twice. Go with your intuition and just get the fuck out of there. So he was unsuccessful with that one as well. A couple years later, Albert ended up finding an ad in the newspaper. Family was struggling financially, so he was really just trying to find ways to help his parents out and get them some money, you know, what a normal kid would do. Well, probably not kids these days. Everybody's so damn entitled, but back then, you need help, I got you. If I have the opportunity, I'm gonna help you. So Albert seen this ad and he decided, hey, I'm gonna go to the household, but I'm not gonna introduce myself as Albert. I'm gonna introduce myself as Frank. Okay, Frank. And he just went there and was like, hey, I seen the ad and I need some help in my home. So I would love to take your son to help me out, you know? He offered Edward $15 a week to come and help him around his home. So in today's world, that'd be about $200 a week, which is, I feel like it's really good to help somebody with their home. Maybe not, I don't know how that stuff works, but sounds pretty good to me. So we all know, if you can't, you know, catch up to speed right now, we're all very much aware that that was not Albert's plan at all. He was really just planning on tying him up, mutilating him, and letting him bleed to death before he eats him. So he said, hey, I'm gonna come pick up your son next week and we'll get this started. So the next week he returns to the Bud home. When he showed up to the home, he met Edward's little sister, and that was Grace Bud. So once Albert seen Grace, his whole mindset changed. He was just like, you know what, Edward, I don't need you no more. So he thought of a fake story and told the parents like, hey, I have a niece that's having a birthday party. I would love to take Grace. I can't imagine, like, how does something even go in your head that quick? Like, oh, little girl, I like her. Actually, matter of fact, I don't need Edward. I have a birthday party to go to actually. So we're gonna go to that real quick. So the Bud family obviously had really no knowledge of who this man is. But back then, everything was so not safe. People were more vulnerable back then than now. So like letting your kid go babysit like the neighbor's daughter, or kid met somebody at school and their parents need help, you just let them do it. So they're like, you know what? We don't really know you, but it's okay. She could go. Yeah, take her. She'll have a great time. And they let Grace go with Albert, and that was the last time that Grace was ever seen. Which would have made me at the end of the day be like, yeah, you're the suspect, period, point blank. I don't give a fuck. But they didn't know his real name. So if they're going to the police and saying, hey, Frank, they're like, we don't know who the fuck Frank is. So Albert wasn't initially the first suspect, which like I said would be kind of hard because he introduced himself as Frank and his name's really Albert. So I mean, that could really be a thing. I really don't understand why he wasn't the first suspect, but they wrongfully arrested a superintendent by the name of Charles Pope. I don't know why this man was the alleged killer or kidnapper or whatever, and Pope spent 108 days in jail before they realized that that wasn't him, right? 108 days. Fast forward to the 30s. In November of 1934, the Bud family got an anonymous letter. Literally told everything. The mother could not read the note. She didn't want to, so Edward ended up reading the note out loud. And I'm gonna read to y'all what this letter says. I don't understand. I don't get it. Parts of the letter were verified, but others were not verified. So the only thing that was confirmed was her death, but the rest of everything that he just said in that note was kind of just like pure speculation off of what he was saying and not really what he was doing. Or like, they didn't have any proof of that. So now we're gonna talk about his arrest. The way they tracked him down was actually pretty clever. I'll give them that. The envelope that he used to send the letter was from the New York Private Chauffeurs Benevolent Association. Sorry, I couldn't say all that in one sentence without looking. On the envelope, it had a small hexagon with the emblem. The emblem said NYPCBA. And that's what it stood for, right? These envelopes were from an employee who took some home after work to his house, and when he moved, he just left them behind. So the police were waiting outside of his home to catch him, and Albert agreed to go down for questioning. But when he got to the police station, he put out a switchblade. I don't know who the fuck he thought he was about to do something to. Albert never denied murdering Grace. He did deny raping her. He did admit to having several orgasms while strangling her. Disgusting, okay? So after he did get arrested, he did admit to another set of people. Francis McDonald was a 9-year-old little boy when he encountered Albert. Francis' body was found hanging from a tree. The murder of Francis was unsolved until Albert came out and admitted to it. He claimed that he strangled him with suspenders after he SA'd him. He was trying to castrate him, but heard people coming, so he left. Which, if you don't know what castrate means, it just means taking off his area. So the story about that was Francis was playing on his porch. He lived in Staten Island in July of 1924. Francis' mother kept seeing an old man, which alleged to be Albert, just walking back and forth, clenching and unclenching his fist. Y'all know that he has some problems, so I don't know what he was doing, but that's what he was doing. He would walk past and just wouldn't say anything. He just looked like he was in the mood. So later in the day, Albert was seen again, but he was actually seen watching Francis and his friends play. Albert also confessed to a murder of a little boy. His name was Billy Gaffney. Billy was from Brooklyn and he was playing outside in the hallway with his friends one day. Suddenly, both of the boys disappeared, but Billy's friend was found on the roof of the apartment. So when they found this little boy on the top of the roof of the apartment complex, they asked him, where did Billy go? And he told them that the boogeyman took him. Peter K, that's what we're gonna call him, Peter K, he was a suspect in the murder of Billy. And then a motorman on a Brooklyn trolley named Joseph, he saw a picture of Albert in the newspaper and clearly identified him as the man that he's seen on February 11th, 1927, as the man that was on the train with a little boy, and he kept trying to quiet the little boy. Joseph said the little boy wasn't wearing a jacket and was crying for his mother and was dragged by the man on and off the trolley. Police ended up matching the description of the child to Billy. Billy's body was never discovered to this day. Billy's mother, after this happened, decided to go into the prison to just get more information or details on what really went on, and that's when Albert ended up telling her, which we're gonna read. Back to the trial, because that was a lot. We need a palate cleanser. These are the testimonies against Albert Fish. Grace's parents and brother Albert testified. James Dempsey, which was Albert's lawyer, seemed determined to make it a point that both Delia and Albert Sr. gave their consent to letting Grace go to a party with Fish. When it was time for Grace's father to go and testify, he couldn't do it. He was like, fuck this shit, I can't do it. So, which I understand, I couldn't do it either. On the third day of the trial, a box of Grace's remains were brought into the courtroom for evidence. While Detective King recreated from what Albert said was how Grace was killed, he kind of just like put the pieces together, you know? And then they reached into the box and pulled out Grace's skull. And it was a very dramatic moment, and Albert's lawyer was like, this is a mistrial. So Albert's lawyer, he tried to focus on the cannibalism and try to get him an insanity plea. He was trying to make it clear as day that like Albert eating somebody's body is not something a sane person would do. So he is insane, even though I think he was insane personally. I want y'all to know that I thought he was insane. No sane person would do any of this. I'm not saying that he should get the insanity plea, but I'm just saying like this is not something that's normal. You know what I'm saying? Like this is not something, like you can't just scream insanity, because if that's the case, a lot of people are insane. To me, insanity plea is like, oh, you need help. And it's like, no, he should have got what he deserved. So yeah, no, I don't think he should have gotten an insanity plea. At the end of the day, that was unsuccessful because there really wasn't no solid proof that Albert was eating these people. There was no proof of him doing that. And Albert was just kind of like indifferent the whole trial. There was a point where he was like, God still has work for me to do. I need to stay alive. And if you don't remember from what I said earlier, he was basically saying that God was telling him to torture and murder these people, which we all know is just insane. That's insane. Albert's lawyer decided to put several of Albert's children on the stand to testify, just explaining sticking needles into his body, as well as like his very bizarre religious delusions that he was having. They did testify that he was a good father and never physically did any harm to his children. So they wanted to demonstrate his strange behavior even more, and this is kind of like the defense of, I want to prove that he's insane. His lawyer called this woman to the stand that would receive several obscene letters from Fish. Another defense witness was Mary Nichols. That was Albert's 17-year-old stepdaughter. And she kind of told them how Albert taught her and her brothers and sisters a game to play, but he would also stick pins under his fingernails right in front of his children like they weren't there or something. I don't know, whatever. Yeah, it's just getting darker and darker. I'm not really fucking with it. So the trial for the murder of Grace lasted 11 days. He was found guilty, thank God, and he was put to death via electrocution. Love that, you know? It was alleged that he helped the executioner place the electrodes on his body, but like I said, it's alleged, it's not really confirmed. His final words were in notes, which I think is odd, and he gave them to his lawyer, but his lawyer stated very clear that he would never, ever, 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 ever say what was in those notes because they were too disturbing and made him sick to his fucking stomach. And he was executed on January 16, 1938. Love that for all of us, right? So he did have other criminal history. It stretched back to 1903, which would make him like, what, 20 something, and he was in jail for grand larceny. And then since then he was arrested for like 6 other like petty crimes, such as the obscene letters that I was telling you about earlier that he was sending to this lady, and petty theft here and there, you know. I love how they call it petty. Like, oh, he stole, that's petty. And half of these arrests occurred around the time that Grace was already missing. But each time the charges were dismissed, unfortunately. That's the story of Albert Fucked Up Fish. My final thoughts is that he definitely has something wrong with him. I 100% think that the whole, I'm not gonna say that it was the 100% reason, but 50%, I feel like the orphanage really just fucked him up. We all really don't know exactly what was happening in there. I feel like that really just like made him go on a whole different spiral. Like I said, he claimed that he had so many others, but who really knows? He's a real sick fuck. The way that he would talk about these kids and send these notes and describe these things, it was just so vile, and I can't understand how someone has a mindset like that. But that's it. That's it, y'all. That's it for this video. I hope you guys are excited for this little thing I'm about to do, because I'm excited. I can't tell y'all how many videos I'm gonna be posting, like spooky-ish, but there's gonna be a good amount, so I'm excited for you guys to see them. If you have any video ideas that pertain to October, spooky, Halloween, let me know down below if you want to see me do them. And that is all for this video, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. Give this video a thumbs up. Make sure you subscribe to my channel, and make sure that you follow all my social media that will be at the end of the video. I love you guys. Bye.